Welcome to the Back to Life podcast, where we explore living well, loving well, and being well. I'm your host, Nicole, and I invite you to tune in for inspirational conversations to get you back to life. Let's get started. Welcome to the Back to Life podcast, where we journey together on living well, loving well, and being well. I'm your host, Nicole, and today we're going to be diving into the second episode, or the ninth episode of the podcast, but the second episode of our series on the emotional impact of our thoughts and behaviors. Today, I am joined once again by my guest co-host, Angela Barella, owner of Blue Phoenix Therapy. Hey, Angela.
Hey, Nicole.
So, are you excited about our topic today?
I am.
Okay. We are talking about anger. And so in this episode, we're going to explore how suppressed or unmanaged anger can be a symptom of a deeper emotional struggle like anxiety and depression. And we're going to use, once again, Inside Out 2 as a reference, where we'll discuss the roots of anger, its impact on mental health, and ways to express and manage it in a more healthy way. So our focus, we have three focuses: riled up, to project and disserve, and thread the needle. And those will be breaking down in this episode.
Nice. That's such a great movie. I really enjoyed it. I took my boys to watch it. It was a really good movie. And also it shows you some really good references to understand kind of different emotions, and especially these when we get into these complex emotions like anger. So it's a really good movie.
And anger's a deep one there.
It is.
Yeah. And so let's start with our first point, which is riled up. The roots of anger. So, Angela, can you kick us off with that?
Sure. So anger, it often stems from a deeper unaddressed emotion, whether it's fear, sadness, whether you're frustrated, or just having anxiety about a situation.
Oh, yeah.
But anger and the act of anger, I guess, comes from a protective based mechanism.
Yeah.
And it shields us from all kinds of different feelings, whether you feel vulnerable or embarrassed or whatever.
Yeah.
And when we look back onto this movie, Inside Out 2, we see anger taking charge, when the other emotions are feeling overwhelmed or they have no idea what they're doing. I'm going to step up and kind of take over. I got this kind of attitude.
He emotes for everyone.
Yes. And, he tries to maintain that control that the other emotions are when they're feeling, out of control.
Yeah, and I like what you said about, it's kind of like it shields us. Anger can, because anger is that outward expression to very much deeper issues that are going on. So thanks for that great point. So anger can sometimes, be more acceptable to express than anxiety and sadness. Yeah. So it becomes our go-to emotion. And that's the one people see and they're just like, oh my gosh, it's
well, because it's not so pretty sometimes.
No, it can be a little bit messy.
Yes.
But this depression can lead to problems, so because we don't want it to go inward, but sometimes we got to be mindful of how it comes out.
Yes, absolutely.
But, when we don't express the underlying issues, then that can be problematic because anger builds up and can explode in so many unhealthy ways. Yes. We have reality TV to show for that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. People tend to be scared of anger. Mm-hmm. And because we're not actually sitting back and trying to understand where it's coming from.
No, we're just mad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it can be very unhealthy when it gets to that point, when you don't know how to express those other emotions. Mm-hmm. And you let it build because you don't have proper boundaries and you don't know, we have, the little emotions wheel. Yes. When you don't know all of those other emotions that are on there and you just let it build, it doesn't come out very nice. So,
well, it's important to build our emotional vocabulary. You mentioned the emotions wheel. I know with a couple of clients, it's kind of like, we start with the basic emotion. Yep. Are you mad, sad, glad, happy? Where are you? And then we kind of branch out, because then it gets to a point where you start to be able to specify really what's going on, what's underneath the
Exactly.
surface.
You kind of have to find that root cause of what's
Yeah.
causing that feeling.
Yeah. And I know sometimes anger has been associated with being a secondary, emotion because there's so much underneath. I think also a lot of times anger can get a bad rap.
Oh, yes.
Because it's okay to be angry.
It is.
It's what you do with that.
Exactly. Yeah.
That may not be so pretty.
Well, yeah. Anger doesn't come wrapped in a pretty little bow all the time.
It does not. It really, really doesn't. And so that brings us to our next point, to project and disserve. The connection between anger, anxiety, and depression. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so in the movie, we see how emotions like anxiety, can make your anger kind of worse or make it feel more extreme.
Yeah.
And so when you see Riley feeling anxious, anger kind of steps in to try to protect her.
Yeah.
Which, leads to outbursts or, kind of that behavior where it's kind of rebellious.
Yes.
And, it's kind of similar to how we might project our deeper fears and frustrations onto others.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually not really helping us in any kind of way.
No. Yeah, no. So are you saying that it does not serve us well? To disserve?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, no. And the thing about it is anger, like all of our other emotions, it's feedback.
Yes.
It's talking about like it causes us to become curious. Okay, so not in the moment because we are so not thinking about that.
No.
But looking at our anger can provide feedback.
Yes.
And so, it's like a feedback loop where anxiety can feed anger and anger feeds anxiety, leading to a cycle that could be hard to break.
Absolutely.
But how would you know that if you don't take in the feedback?
Yes.
And so this can be deeply impactful to our mental health. Exactly. And it makes us feel even more isolated and misunderstood because think about it. How many people do you know that have exploded for whatever reason, good, bad, or ugly? And then it's kind of like either you're labeled, oh, you're an angry person or something. And it's kind of like, no. And a lot of times it can be, the behavior is the yelling. Yes. The feeling is the anger, but the need there is you're not hearing me. Exactly. I need someone to listen to me. I need to see me, and I think that's super important.
It is. It's really important. And just kind of understanding that, not everybody means to act out the way that they do when they're angry. And then, what comes with that anxiety also comes guilt and like all these other emotions that come from it. Because when we aren't true to ourselves and we don't hold our boundaries, this whole feedback loop that you just discussed happens continuously over and over and over. And, when whether we're just trying to get a connection with somebody or trying to get help to learn how to control our anger, it's not always easy, to take a, seat and be like, you know what, I actually do need help with this. I don't know what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
But it's not coming out too pretty.
It's coming out though.
It's coming out. So you have to kind of learn to address the underlying issues. And that's not always easy because we don't always understand what those underlying feelings are.
Oh, absolutely. You have to be able to identify what's going on. But here's the thing. You can't do that in the height of the emotion.
Exactly.
And so a lot of times, it is important. I mean, if it's out, it's out. You can't do anything about it. You
can't take it back. Yeah.
No, you really can't. But what you can do is when you're not angry, because no one but the Hulk is angry 24, always angry, so to speak. Yeah. But but those times when you're not angry, you can be reflective and kind of look at, okay, what just happened?
Yeah.
What is it that I need? You know? And I know that can be uncomfortable for a lot of people because we don't go around going, oh, what do I need in this moment?
Well, yeah, in our day-to-day life, we don't really have time to sit back and kind of...
No. Be happy I'm here.
Exactly, yes.
That is the attitude.
Yeah.
But it is, we can take moments to be reflective. And once we are, we can dig a little deeper. Mm-hmm. And if we're still stuck, of course, what can we do? We can plug for therapy. No,
Exactly.
but you can seek out professional help to help
Yes.
you kind of find the roots of
Yes.
that anger.
And I think a lot of people too, they think, therapy is just talking.
But
And
it's so much more than that.
there is so much more that goes into that. And, just having somebody tell you, like, and validate your feelings and say, you know what, like, I understand why you acted that way.
Mm-hmm.
But,
yeah, that's hard.
It's hard.
That's a hard feeling. You must have been so,
Yes.
overwhelmed in that moment.
Yes. And I've had clients, they have anger issues and, they're like, well, I just don't have time to take that step back and pause. Like, I just don't do it. But people don't realize once you implement some of these changes in, you don't have to do it. It just starts happening naturally.
Absolutely.
And that's where you really see the progress start happening. So, there are things you can do and strategies you can use.
And honestly, if this is a pattern of behavior, you can't afford not to find out.
Exactly.
Because it's not going to get better.
Exactly.
So, all right. So that brings us to our final point, thread the needle, where we're looking at healthy anger management techniques. So, Angela, what could be some that you can share, that could be really helpful for this?
Okay, so one really good, effective technique is practicing mindfulness. And we kind of, talked about that a little bit, taking a step back. I think we all have that moment, whether it's just a split second or, you feel it building, but you kind of feel that anger rising. You feel that shift. You have those thoughts like, oh, really? Like, bet. Like, you feel it coming.
Yes.
So if you just can catch it, and that's where, practice comes in.
Oh, for sure.
You catch it, you can take a moment to sit back and breathe, you can observe your emotions without, feeling judged, and, counting to 10, listening to music, going for a walk, taking yourself out of the situation.
Sure.
Those things all really help, and it's just being there in the moment and being able to catch yourself and be mindful of what's going on.
And recognize like you said, a part of mindfulness would be, kind of paying attention.
Yes.
Paying attention is what, when you get angry, your jaws kind of tighten, your fist or something. And so if you are in tuned with what's going on and you're like, oh, I'm feeling some kind of way about that, then you're kind of like, oh, I need to pause.
Yes.
Oh, I need to walk away. Oh, but like you said, it's not easy. You have to practice it.
You have to practice.
And once you practice it, you can practice it with little annoyances. Not, it's a lot easier with little ones as opposed to, when somebody's in your face and you're just like, I'm not thinking about that.
Yes.
But there you on the news. So.
But also understanding too that you're not going to get it perfect all the time.
No.
And, like, just
keep going.
Exactly. Yeah. And just because you're in tune with, yourself and you can pause doesn't mean you're going to do it every single time.
No.
And it's okay.
It is. You're learning you.
Yes.
And you're learning how to navigate these situations.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so mindfulness is very powerful. Another strategy is to express our feelings constructively. Feel your feelings and be able to communicate all those things. And this can be talking to a trusted friend, journaling, which I highly promote, or just engaging in, some kind of physical activity like exercise, because it's important. You got to realize, like, all of these emotions, they can get stored in our bodies.
Yep, they get
and
stuck.
So, they can get stuck. Yep. Absolutely. So by us doing some sort of physical exercise, it really does, help, because it helps for it to flow through. Like you said, you can go take a walk. You know what I mean? It seems simple. You know what I mean? Because when we say exercise, sometimes you're picturing somebody really pushing
like
hard
in the gym.
Hey, if that works for you, you do that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, it can be something as simple as just shaking
it out, just dancing, turning music on.
Just a whole lot of things. So this is really, really important, is just being aware that your emotions, your body remembers. Even though you may be past the moment, your body remembers.
Yes.
And so doing those things can be very helpful. But kind of going back to talking to a trusted friend, you can talk to a therapist if you don't feel like that's something you want to share with somebody. You can talk to a professional, but also journaling is a very healthy way of, letting that be your container.
Yes.
for your emotions and your feelings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we kind of discussed this before. Like, you don't have to go write your feelings down if you're feeling uncomfortable. Like, you can.
There's several ways to journal.
You can, yes, you can paint, you can draw, you can
get
just
it out.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's about. It's just getting the emotions out, and just finding an outlet for it.
Yes. Yeah, and you'd be surprised just how creative you can be.
Oh, yeah.
Using your emotional powers for good.
Yes.
Yes. So, all right, what's another one?
Well, I think I've mentioned it a couple times, setting boundaries.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and it's, I think, one of the most important ones out of, anything. It helps with every emotion that we have.
Oh, for sure.
And, when anger starts, rising and we feel our boundaries are being crossed, we have to be able to communicate in a clear, effective, healthy way what our needs are, our limits, because we don't want to let all of that stuff, that resentment and that frustration keep building, because that's where, the ugly, right, anger comes from.
It really does. But think about it. A lot of times when you get to that, and you think about why people are angry, it's because a boundary has not been, either respected or something. It has to do, boundaries are somewhere in the root of that.
Exactly.
And so, setting boundaries is also good for your overall self-care.
Yes.
And this is what's super important to remember, because setting boundaries, it's like I said, you're not going to get rid of anger altogether, because you're human.
Well, anger's there for a reason.
Absolutely. Yeah. So not only with boundaries, but let's not forget the importance of therapy once again.
Yes.
It's important to get help when you need it. It's important to recognize the issue and know that you need help.
Yeah.
And it's not, there's no shame.
Yep.
There's no shame. We all struggle with anger. We all struggle with so many things. There is no shame in asking for help. And therapy can provide that help and that support and that safe space for you.
Absolutely. So let's just take all of what we just said and kind of like reflect back on it.
Okay.
Everybody just kind of think of like a recent time when you felt angry.
Ooh,
yeah. Like, what was that?
Could have been 5 minutes ago.
Right? Like, what was that underlying emotion? Like, what could have been driving that anger? How could you have addressed that emotion in a healthier way?
Yeah.
And it's important to have that reflection and look back, because we don't grow unless we can look back on what we've done.
Absolutely. Self-awareness is key.
Exactly.
It really is. And that's a great question. So it's about digging deeper and understanding ourselves better, because wasn't there a commercial, The More You Know? Wasn't that?
Yes.
Like, yeah, because it is. I mean, but it's so true. The more you know, the more you grow. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, I'm such a nerd. Anyway, thank you so much.
Of course.
For joining me today.
Thank you.
And sharing your insights. I love this topic about anger, you know, because it's so complex, and we don't have the time to kind of go into the depths of it, but I do feel like this is, really important, and, kind of like we need to kind of bring it to light, not, and kind of unshame it.
There is a lot of shame with anger.
Yeah.
And, it's just like every other emotion that we have. There's good and bad in all of them.
It really is. And shame and mislabeling.
Yes.
Which needs to stop.
Yep. Just because you have anger doesn't mean you're a bad person.
No.
And, you get labeled that sometimes, and it's not, you could just be a really hurt person.
And there are so many.
Yes.
Yes, you're right. So thank you so much, Angela, for just joining in on this conversation. And we hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. Join us next time as we continue our series with a look at perfectionism and its hidden impacts. So remember, living well, loving well, and being well starts with understanding ourselves better. So I hope that you take care of yourself, and we'll talk to you next time. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. We'd love to hear your thoughts and stories about this series that we're talking about. You can follow us online at our website or on socials, and information about that is in the show notes. Be well.